Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the King, and welcome back to the channel. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is your no-nonsense tutorial on how to play as and against the Blight. With that being said, let's jump on into it. We're going to start off talking about how to play as the Blight, and before you can even jump on in and play a game as this guy, you need to know what you're running and, the perks you're going to use to help you, the add-ons you're going to use to help, and basically what his power is, what helps and hinders him. So let's talk about that. Before we even think about any of these add-ons or any of these perks, keep in mind that this guy really doesn't do well in indoor maps. You still can do good in indoor maps, but it is extremely difficult, and in the background later on you're going to be seeing some gameplay of me actually utilizing him on an indoor map, and it's much more difficult because of the way his power is set up. So keep that in mind. You can run add-ons to take you to custom maps, or even the new add-ons to cancel out any maps if you want RNG to be on your side. So with that being in mind, let's go ahead and talk about what his power actually is for those of you guys that don't know. The Blight comes with something called Rush. Press the power button to quickly rush forward. Doing so consumes all of your rush tokens. While performing a rush, the Blight cannot launch an attack. Rush into a wall or obstacle in the environment to slam onto it. If the rush fails to connect with a wall or obstacle, or if the Blight is out of rush tokens, he will enter a short fatigue state and begin recharging the tokens. And his special attack is the Lethal Rush. Following a slam, press the power button to launch a Lethal Rush. Doing so consumes a rush token. A Lethal Rush behaves the same as a rush, except the Blight may launch an attack by pressing the attack button. So now you have a better understanding of why his power isn't the best and competent when it comes to indoor maps, because you need to rush into a wall, and if you're rushing into a wall on indoor maps, chances are you'll get stuck in the corner or stuck around somewhere, and you'll basically be running on into a wall consistently. But if you got an open map, or if you utilize his power enough and understand how to play him, over time you'll get better at this. So now we know how his power works, we know what helps and hinders him. Let's talk about his perks. Perks that help him. And just like every standard killer that is out there, there's two perks that will always help him, or any killer in general. The first one being barbecue and chili. This more so helps him even more than some of the other killers because of his speed. Because he has the ability to quickly dash across the map and put some pressure on some other survivors, barbecue and chili helps you find where these other survivors are located. Once you know where they're at, you can quickly rush to them, continue to snowballing once you get the hook on somebody, and continue to go on and succeed. Not only this, but you also get a lot of points, which is always wonderful to have. The next perk that I would recommend on him is Hex Ruin. Now, you are going to need some slowdown perks just as is. You don't have to run Ruin, but if you do utilize Ruin, you can put something like Hex Undying, which is a unique perk to him, which makes it so that if your Ruin is cleansed, it will just spawn at a different totem because of Hex Undying. This combination is very good, and because of this, you can get so much more pressure on your generators, and you can combine this with something like Surveillance, and with Ruin, it has a lovely combination effect. Now, personally, I don't like using Ruin. I'm not really a totem kind of guy. I don't like the high risk, high reward gameplay because I always get burned. Instead, I like to go for something that's more safe, and Pop Goes the Weasel. Pop Goes the Weasel rewards you for basically doing your job correctly. Every time you hook a survivor, you have 60 seconds to kick a generator, and if you kick this generator, it will be regressed by 25%. This is an absolutely amazing perk. I can go on forever about talking about it, and if you guys play Killer, you know that Pop Goes the Weasel is one of the best perks that there is on Killer. So these two are pretty much a given on any killer. So let's talk about the perks that specifically help him and his power. And the first one that I have on the list is Tinkerer. Tinkerer has recently received a buff in this update where if a generator is repaired to 70%, you'll have the undetectable status effect for 16 seconds. Because of the Blight's insane speed, if a generator is at 70%, you can quickly get to it, make no noise whatsoever, get to that generator, and put some pressure on it. And if survivors are there, you'll scare them off. And this is where something like Ruin would come in if you are running Ruin, so you don't have to waste your time kicking it. But if you are running something like Pop Goes the Weasel and you have it, you can utilize that there. So Ruin and Tinkerer synergize pretty well in this instance. But for my build specifically, I like running Pop, and Tinkerer goes well with it. You can go ahead and just catch survivors and knock them down. Now, the final perks that you can run are really a toss-up for whatever really works more with your gameplay. He doesn't really have any standout perks that will help him. People might go for something like Save the Best for Last, which I would disagree with because it doesn't give you much value. People might go for something like Corrupt. I would also disagree with because you already have so much overwhelming pressure at the start. Personally, I love going for Enduring. As you're running around the map, people like to toss pallets at you, and if you're still learning your power, or if you're running through pallets and you want to bait some, pallet drops, Enduring is going to help you very much so. Now, normally people run Enduring and Spirit Fury, and you're more than welcome to do so with him as well. I personally don't like doing it because it does build some bad habits, and when you don't have it, then you don't play to your best ability because you're so accustomed to getting that little bit of a handicap from those 2 perks synergizing. Now again, you can run it, it is completely up to you, or you can run any other perk that you deem, would work well. You could run something like Surge, although it's not the best to run with Pop Goes the Weasel, you still can, or whatever else may help your gameplay. Nurse's Calling, Dying Light, anything like that will go on and help. For me personally, I think this is one of the best builds for him, and if you really see no value in Enduring, and I had to make a recommendation, Monitor and Abuse is a fabulous perk on him. Now right now his heartbeat is a little bit wonky, and for killers specifically that have a custom heartbeat, it's very difficult for survivors to hear. With something like Monitor and Abuse, even after they patch the heartbeat and everything is good, it's still going to be really difficult for survivors to hear where you're coming from. And because you're running like Tinkerer and things like that, it's even more surprising essentially, and you have more of the not undetectable status effect, but you're more undetectable when running around and going super quick. So if you run by a survivor, they might not hear you. This can work pretty well for your gameplay. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about some of the add-ons that you need to run. Now, what I found to be the best add-ons are, number 1, the one that increase his speed. These speed add-ons are absolutely amazing. It makes your job so much more easier, and this one is called Blighted Crow. Considerably increases rush speed for each consecutive rush. Now, anything that affects his speed is really, really good. And on top of that, anything that affects his turning is absolutely amazing as well. He has a lot of difficulty when it comes down to turning, and using these add-ons such as Umbra Salts really, really helps you in capitalizing on some of those flick plays, essentially. Because think about Hillbilly or Oni when you're using your power and you turn last second to get that slam. This essentially is kind of like it, not to the same extent, but it helps you get that same feel, and then you can capitalize on it. Now, what I personally think is his best add-on in the game is the Alchemist Ring. Hitting a survivor with a lethal rush will instantly recharge all rush tokens. I think this is the best add-on in the game for him. This is absolutely amazing because all you need to do is rush, hit somebody, and you can literally rush again and knock them down. It is so fast. All you need to do is do your job successfully and you will get rewarded for it. And if you don't hit someone, you'll just have the regular standard effect where you need to pop a syringe again. That's it. There is no downside to this whatsoever. This is an absolutely amazing perk, and I think it takes him above and beyond. Of course, there is one add-on that makes him even stronger than that, and that is the Iridescent Blight tag, which upon using all your rush stacks, your last lethal rush will put survivors into the dying state. This is a very good add-on as well. Personally, I don't like it because you need to go into your final rush token, and sometimes that's a little bit hard because you already have the perfect hit upon the 3rd or 2nd time of using your attack, and then by the time you go to the 5th, you could get, a hit that wouldn't make sense, or like a hit that's not there, essentially. What I'm trying to say is you can get the hit way more early, but because of this, it kind of forces you to do it on your last attempt if you really want to go for the downs, and that can hinder your gameplay. Of course, there are a lot of other add-ons that can help. There are the ones like Soul Chemical that will show the auras, and there's other ones that, will call upon the entity to block the pallets. These are just more of the fun type of add-ons that can help you in certain builds, or even Vigo's Journal, which will give you the undetectable status effect, which is pretty good, but we already have some stuff going on with Tinker and Monitor. So the best add-ons, all in all, that I would consider are the speed add-ons and the turning add-ons. Now, if you run out of these, the add-ons that are also good are the recovery add-ons, those help as well. They're along with the yellows and the other ones. And if you just want to learn how to play him and understand his power a little bit more, you can use the chip Monocly. This will display the stun, or the slam location, I should say, and it will give you a better understanding of where your character is going to go. Now, with that being said, you've picked your add-ons, you've picked your perks, it's time to go ahead and jump on into a game. And this is where experience really comes into a factor, and I'm going to try to tell you guys as much as I know from the Blight and playing him for the past maybe 25 hours. Initially, when you spawn on into the game, the best thing to do is to run into a wall and try to get as much distance in one direction as you can. Try to figure out the spawn point of where these survivors are. This is going to be absolutely amazing for you because you can start putting pressure on as soon as you find somebody. This is really easy to do. All you need to do is to basically go to a generator, and chances are you'll find a survivor. If you don't, keep looking around, keep using your power. And remember, you have about 4 seconds before you need to run on into a wall. So try to go to the very tippy tip of using your power before you need to inject another syringe. That way you can maximize the distance that you go. If you were to just use all 5 of your tokens right away, your power would immediately run out. So try to utilize it as far as you can. Think about this again as the hillbilly just revving his chainsaw, going across the map and finding somebody. Once you find somebody, pretty standard. If they are in an open area, run on into a wall or any object and try to bounce off of things that will give you a direct path to where that survivor is running. If they're running in a straight line, it makes your job very easy. You can just bump on into a wall and run straight into them. If they're running to a pallet or something like that, try to imagine in your head where they're going to go. Think about if you were playing the nurse and you need to guess where survivors are going, and then by doing that in your head while you're playing, figure out an accurate path that will take you right where they will be so you can get that hit. Sometimes you fall a little short, you're inaccurate, but this is going to take some practice, but that is essentially the best way to do this. And the best way to know where the survivors are going is to look around for pallets or vaults. Those are the things that they're going to be looking for. That's how you combat him, which we'll talk about later in the video. So essentially, again, to reiterate what I just said, if a survivor's running in the open, you get a free clear hit. They're more than likely to run to a pallet or a vault. Try to map out a path that will lead you to that, and then take that swing. I also want to make it clear that you can cancel your power, like instead of running past somebody, by swinging. By swinging, this will, again, it'll take a little bit longer. It's not too much longer from the initial, re-injecting of your serum, the cooldown, that is. But it will stop your power, and you don't have to run across the map if you just ran past somebody. Now, in cases where you're being looped, it is not the best idea to use your power because they have tight loops and tight corners. What ends up happening is that you utilize your power and you just don't have enough turning mobility to go around this, and survivors will continue to loop. And if you utilize your power too much and you overuse it, what ends up happening is they'll just keep looping you and you won't have much of a choice. At that point, you just need to basically loop them. You can opt out to leave the chase and look for somebody else if you like. Maybe your tinkerer goes off or something like that. But in that instance, play like a regular killer. Don't overuse your power in this instance. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's talk about some other scenarios now. You can also use his power passively. You don't have to use it as a means of killing survivors. You can just run around, use it like the hillbilly, get some distance, and that's pretty much it. And once you do that, you can just chase your survivors down. If they go to looping you, just finish them off. On the indoor maps, this is a little bit more tricky because when it comes down to just regular gameplay, it's much more difficult to get those easy initial hits. So on indoor maps, think about more of the long run. Use all of your tokens in order to get to that point. Normally in like a wider open map, you'd only have to use 2 or 3 of your tokens and you could get to the survivor. In a tight indoor map, you would have to think about, all right, if I bounce off at this wall, I can go to this wall, then a different wall, and then I will get out of this area or a clear hit. Those are the kind of things that you're going to start to need thinking about when you are playing this guy. In the gameplay, it'll be way better at explaining what I'm trying to say because it's very difficult to put on into words, but you'll see in the gameplay itself. I want to touch a little bit more on overutilizing your power as well. In some instances, you would run on into a wall a couple times and you can't get out of it. Don't spam the button trying to get out because you'll eventually just keep on hitting the wall, using your power and getting that entire cooldown, and it is a complete waste of time. So all you need to do is just, again, not use your power in those essence. And ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much it for the Blight. I mean, I kind of just reiterated the way you're meant to play him. I hope you guys took some information out of this. There's not too much to say on how to play him, except for just imagining where your survivors are going and trying to cut off those points. And once you do that and you get more experience under your belt, it becomes easier and easier. This guy is ultra fun to play. He has a good skill cap and a high ceiling where a lot of people are going to learn him and really do good with him. Eventually, those things that I talk about where I'm like, you know, it's difficult to combat loops, people are going to figure out how to even do that, and it's going to be very overwhelming. In certain instances, of course, you can do it if there is a wall and you can like bounce off the wall and cut the loop short, but in most instances, there's not. But it wouldn't shock me in due time if people figure it out. So now let's talk about how to combat him. You know, obviously, you've been playing him or playing against him, and sometimes you might have a difficult time. Literally, the thing that I said that he has a difficult time with, it's just sharp corners and looping. Upon using his power, you know that he's going to be, you know, trying to predict where you're going. All you need to do, similar to Nurse, is run the other way, run around something, use corners, use vaults, sharp turns in order to make it so he doesn't get a straight line attack at you. That is pretty much how his power goes. Now, he can go a little bit to the left and right if he turns it enough, but if you do it sharp enough, it'll be too much of a turn for him to compensate for. So that is the way that you beat him. And again, in experience and in time, you'll learn how to do this and you'll understand how to beat him. And of course, just looping him as every other killer will help you in doing so. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to essentially wrap up this video. A bit of a more lengthy one. I hope you guys still took some information out of this and learned a little bit more about the Blight and how to play him and how to play against him. The gameplay in the background, of course, is going to show you a little bit more on how to utilize him. So I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please consider subscribing down below, as we're literally so close to 100,000 subscribers. It would mean the world to me. And yeah, that is pretty much it. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure you leave a like, share it with your friends. As always, I'm the King. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.